of Talk to Your Professor program. Prof, you are highly welcome. Is Prof here? Okay, the next on our list is our Professor Adewale Adeniyi. Sorry, Prof, if I don't pronounce that well. He joined the services of Lagos State University in June 2005 as lecturer 2 and rose through the ranks to become the first inbreed professor of pharmacology, therapeutics, and toxicology at the Lagos State University. He is currently the director, LASU Directorate of Research Management and Innovation. Professor Adeniyi has over 120 research publications, including 3 books, which are all available on Amazon bookstores, and 2 chapter contributions in his area of specialization. His major research contributions include the landmark discoveries of 2 significant species in the field of pharmacology. He's a recipient of over 9 research grants, awards, and fellowships. Notable among them is the Young Affiliate Award of Tours Rosa in 2014. Also in 2013, he won the AU Tours Best Young Scientist National Award. And in 2010, he also won the Fulbright JSD Scholarship Award. He's also a foundation fellow of the prestigious Academy of Medicine Specialties of Nigeria and a fellow of National Academy of Medicine. I am delighted to welcome you, Professor Adeniyi, to this program. Prof, you are highly welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chinwoke Ifeanyi. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be part of this forum.
Thank you very much. I know our audience, they are eagerly waiting to hear from the panelists. Today, we are going to give the panelists just a little time to give us an overview of their experience based on the theme of this edition. We are going to give each of them just 8 minutes to talk to us. After that, we'll have our audience ask their very many questions. I know a lot of them have a lot of questions they want to offload. So we'll have enough time to them to ask their question. NYA has done well to bring to us in this edition professors of high repute. So we'll give our panelists 8 minutes each to speak to the audience on the summary of their experience of this theme for today's edition, Pathways to Academic and Research Breakthrough, what challenges they encountered and how they were able to overcome it. Permit me to start with Dr. Abiodun Egwetokun. Doc, please, right. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ifeanyi Obi. Can you please confirm that you can hear me clearly?
Yes, very well.
Okay. You see, this is one of the problems you face when you are speaking to a virtual audience. You just never know whether people are hearing you or not. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to be speaking in this maiden edition of the program. So in the next 8 minutes, I want to mention a few things off the top of my head. I'm not using any slides. So this is supposed to be a real and, heart-to-heart session where we talk about things that are not necessarily on the CV, but are equally important. First off, one thing that was not mentioned in my citation, and I left it out intentionally, is that I started from a mechanical engineering background. Today, I have a PhD in economics. So my research and policy experience has seen me go from a mechanical engineer all the way through management my master's is in technology management, to a PhD in economics. So I like to say that I am one of a very rare species in Nigeria. There aren't many of us that you will find in academia like that. And I think this helps me to bring up the very first major challenge that I can identify, particularly when you want to do creative research. In Nigeria, it is what it is, that sometimes creativity doesn't sell quickly enough. And I must be quick to say that this is not peculiar to Nigeria. It's everywhere. For instance, the paper in which Albert Einstein proposed the general theory of relativity was first rejected by one of the frontline journals of his days for the idea being stupid. It got published in a much weaker journal after a while, only for that to be the thing on which the whole discipline, on the ideas on which the whole discipline of astrophysics rests today. So sometimes creativity meets with challenges, it meets with resistance. One specific resistance that I have seen, and I think it's because of the way the Nigerian university system is structured, is that for somebody like myself, it's difficult to get a lecturing job, an academic position in engineering. It is difficult to get it in management. It's also difficult to get it in economic sciences. And why is that? Because the NUC has a rule, albeit a bit obscure, that at least 2 of your disciplinary specializations must be in the same, 2 of your qualifications rather, at least 2 of your 3. So if it's going to be BSc, MSc, PhD, at least 2 of the 3 must be from the same disciplinary area before you can profess in a particular discipline. So, if you're like me, you end up talking to many universities, and if you don't get lucky to encounter a university administrator who is willing to take the risk, you don't particularly get a position on time. So that's one challenge, but knowing why you are doing what you are doing is very critical in going forward. Now, my foray into academic research started around 2005. And let me quickly highlight 3 things. For want of time, I want to keep it brief and succinct. Other issues will come up as we interact later. Now, my foray into academic research started in 2005, and I was looking for a job back then, but I've always been interested in research. And by the way, when I was an undergraduate, I remember that my course mates used to tell me that I was a good teacher. Sometimes some of them argued that I talked a lot, but I was happy that they never claimed that I was talking nonsense. So I believed that, based on this feedback, informal, albeit, I could potentially do well as an academic researcher. And usually I was given the task of doing a lot of background research when we had term papers and group projects to do in my engineering classes at that time. So immediately after my youth service, I took a job as a secondary school teacher. I helped to set up the science laboratory in 2 secondary schools. And then Providence brought me together with a man who later became my employer, who today is a very good professional mentor to me. And so he gave me a job as a junior researcher at that time, where I currently work. And, I took that opportunity with both hands, applied myself to the job, and I've risen through the ranks from then until now. At a point, I had to travel out of the country for my PhD. And because of that, again, this is an institutional challenge in Nigeria. Because I was away at that time, my promotion was stalled. Many people would have quit. I mean, well, maybe not many, not to exaggerate, but some people would have quit at that point. But I chose to come back to what I'm doing now. So if you read my profile today and you are impressed, you should also bear in mind that that has been forged, as an outcome of a lot of toil and sweat. So specifically, I'd like to highlight 3 things that I believe have helped me a lot and that I believe that could be very useful for some of our junior colleagues. The first one is mentorship. Get a good mentor as quickly as you can. A good mentor will give you some of the harshest feedback and criticisms that would reset you early enough in your career. For instance, one of the things I learned from my professional mentor is the need to commit yourself to integrity very early on in your career. Do not cut corners. And this is very critical. I did a post about this on my LinkedIn page a short while back. And then the second thing is the role of providence. You know, whether you believe that there is a God or not, at least I assume that everybody will agree that there is something that is called luck, a stroke of luck, providence. For me, this is God. For those who don't believe in God, there's no problem at all. But I do want to say very emphatically that there is this thing called providence. There is this thing that we call luck. You know, something that just tells you that that path you are on is correct. This still small voice inside of your head, that's, you know, in Old English, they call it gumption, something that convinces you that you're on the right path. You see, if you are not able to convince yourself when the going gets tough that you're on the right path, then the academic discipline is not for you at all. You're not likely to break through in research, because when the time comes for you to be toiling and sweating, and it appears as if you have hit a brick wall, it is this kind of conviction, this deep conviction, this belief in the divine, the providence, your connection to providence is what will keep you going. And then finally, it's important to have good values. Hone very strong values from the ground up. Values of hard work, values of integrity, a strong desire to learn and to be open to correction. It is very, very important. You see, in academic research, if you're going to be a top-line research, you cannot expect to be right all of the time. And one thing you have to learn to do very quickly is to develop a thick skin. My very first paper was rubbish. I remember that when I was interviewing for my PhD position, you know, it was so bad when I was presenting that somebody on my presentation panel was literally laughing. Till tomorrow, I don't know what the guy was laughing at, but he was laughing. You know how awkward that will look like. I felt a bit inadequate at that point. But thankfully, I managed to do well in the presentation at the end of the day, and I got into the program. And I was happy that at the end of the program, my supervisor wrote me an email saying that in the beginning, he was a bit scared about my ability to go through the system, but he's happy that as his first African student, you know, as his first student from the continent of Africa at that time, I did impressively well. And I still remember that communication till tomorrow, and I'm happy that I went through that program. So mentorship.
Oh, I think the network has cut him off. All right, he was almost rounding off before the network cut him off. I didn't want to tell you Dr. Agbotokun is an eloquent speaker. I wanted you to listen to him and discover that yourself. If we give him opportunity, he will talk to us today.
Critical providence is important for positive values. Cutting corners will help a strong desire to learn. These are some of the.
Oh, we still cut him off.
So I'm sorry, I lost connection there for a minute, but I was about finishing anyway. So I was saying that these are the things that I believe that if we imbibe them, they will help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. I was telling them that I didn't want to tell them you're a very eloquent speaker and you like talking. I wanted them to discover that for themselves. And I think they will believe me now when I say he's a very eloquent speaker that enjoys talking. Thank you so much. I think I got two strategic things from his speech. Being able to identify what you have flair for and being able to also get a good mentor that can guide you towards your dream. Thank you so much, Doc. I know the audience, they will have a lot of questions for you after this. Please, let's have Professor Emmanuel Nwabuna. Can you please take the microphone and give us your overview of your own experience on the theme of this program? Please, is Prof here now?
I think it's not there. I think it's better we proceed. He's having some network challenges.
Okay. So we move over to Professor Adeniyi. Prof, I can see you right here. Please, can you speak to the audience on your own experience? Thank you.
Well, thank you, the moderator, Dr. Chinwoke Fenyobi. I hope I got the pronouncement.
Very well.
I got it right, Mom.
Yes,
yeah. He's a wonderful player, and I want to thank the team for putting up this meeting edition together to create a pathway for our younger ones to learn, so that they do not necessarily have to go through the pace we went through, the way of making life easier for them as they journey in their individual lives and career, which they've chosen. So much is been said. In starting off, I needed to provide information that I started off as a medical doctor. I'm now a pharmacologist. I actually, after my first degree, was into the postgraduate medical training in neurosurgery. By Providence, it's a very renowned clinical pharmacologist. It's not late, Professor Odutola, who incidentally was coordinating a drug presentation far away in Usman Danfodio Teaching Hospital, where I was, and then he came to make a drug presentation. In the process, I asked some questions, during the questions and answer period. And he was so fascinated. And after the program, he just beckoned on me and said, wow, you seem to have deep knowledge of pharmacology. Why don't you just want to take up a career in addition to what you are having? Perhaps you can just enroll for a master's and perhaps a PhD subsequently if the interest is there. In Usman Danfodio. And I wasn't really sure of what to do. Surprisingly, barely a week after, I wouldn't know how I was able to get my place of residence. I just heard the knock on the door. And behold, I saw the late Professor Odutola with a postgraduate application form, which he just handed over to me. He asked me to fill the form and return to his office. And then the skill process, and exactly that was how I did. Well, the rest is history. Because he led me on the path that today I never regretted. So many things happened subsequently that eventually I needed that thorough academic and research freedom. I'm not trying to underplay residency training program, but eventually I discovered that this research was actually what my interest lies into. And there's a whole lot of room to be able to discover things never reported or things underreported. So I took the bull by the horn and had the master's training, and subsequently, at the end, it was with a PhD grade that was to be converted to a PhD. And eventually, to cut a long story short, I had a very smooth sailing for my postgraduate training. And of course, I needed to acknowledge the contribution of Professor Odutola, who is now late. He's of blessed memory. He passed on, he suffered a massive stroke shortly before I completed my MSc program. And I ever remain grateful, like he was just a chosen angel to lead me in that part of life. And without him, perhaps I wouldn't have been. Perhaps I would have just been in my field of neurosurgery. But I'm able to say that if I had been a neurosurgeon, I don't think the opportunities I've had to wine, dine, discuss with world leaders, renowned scientists all over the world wouldn't have been. I know that for sure. But it's actually a good part where I am. But all that being said, I needed to tell our people that the journey has not really been rosy. It has been a crooked path, particularly when you consider the abuse of academic and research activities all around our country and in the sub-Saharan Africa. We are saddled with a lot of challenges, very enormous challenges. But I always try to, the only consolation I take in all of these challenges is I see them as opportunities to turn things around. And I also see these challenges as surmountable if we are focused and we get our self together. Perhaps let me just start, let me say or highlight some of the problems which we have that has been bottlenecks when it comes to research in Nigeria. And basically, these challenges range from poor research funding to poor infrastructures, absence of R&D, research and development all around us. The knowledge gap, there's a wide knowledge gap between what is taught or what our research focus on and the society needs. There is that gap which we need to bridge. Our researches and research efforts should be directed towards solving for us some of our local problems. As it is at that level we can then be asking for technology transfer. If you ask for technology, that is usually one of the things I always debate with colleagues when they hammer on, we need technology transfer. I ask, what facilities do we have on ground for this technology transfer? How do we sustain this technology transfer? And then this technology transfer we are talking of what relevance will they be to our societal needs? Our society now, as applicable in the world, varies from one side to the other. But based on the peculiarity of our needs, we should be able to devise means of solve these problems using local contents for people to solve our problems. And of course, when you look at all of this, it has resulted into massive brain drain. Best of our brains have been looked to the West environment they have. They are doing quite great things, which you are seeing. But that's not to say that even back at home front, we are not doing a lot. I always take pride when I see home-based researchers. They compete favorably with researchers from the West, and they do extremely well. And this is exactly why I always encourage us that despite all the challenges we have, we can still have good research works, quality research work, emanating from this environment. And it's a way of just bridging that gap. And most importantly, in our folks, we find it, everybody seems to be doing own research work in its own cocoon. Everybody likes to stay in the comfort zone. But this is time for a Christoph amongst researchers to encourage, it's time for us to encourage multidisciplinary research collaborations. There is no way, particularly many of the problems we have require multidisciplinary approaches. So there's nothing wrong in bringing an economics into solving the problems, bringing a medical expert into it, bringing an engineer to give his own perspective, his own input, bringing a sociologist to give the sociological context into some of these research needs. And most importantly, we need the government to be responsible. It is always very difficult when we depend solely on such sponsored researches. More often than not, and this is actually the problem we have, most of the research efforts we are making are actually self-sponsored, and it shouldn't be. And this is why I always encourage our colleagues, please try as much as possible to apply for grants. There are so many grant opportunities that are available, particularly in this world of internet, which has made the world a global community. There are many scholarship and fellowship blogs that are available, blog spots that are available, websites that are available, depending on your area of specialty, your area of special needs, that you can actually apply for, even if it is seed grants, research grants that you can, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. You start from there, and by winning little of this, the interest is subsequently the interest, because you never know who is actually watching, and the efforts you are making, before you know, you'll be able to reach out to some other scientists in other parts of the world, and you'll be able to win bigger grants. And this is actually the way to start. So basically, this year are the things I just felt that we should talk about. I also want to encourage our colleagues, despite these challenges, let's remain focused. Draw up a plan on what you want for yourself. And then, identify senior colleagues who have the same or similar research interests with you. And of course, reach out to them, make proposal, ask for their input, involve them in the research. And all of this is about mentorship. The more you are mentored, the more you get better. You understand what I'm saying? Make efforts to equally attend conferences, search international platforms, publish in good journals, involve in less, particularly for those who are at lower level. You see some of them picking interest. Oh, I want to be HOD, I want to be this. We should minimize that. This is the time for career building. So it is when you get to the top that you can start struggling for administrative positions, political positions. You want to be known in so plan. And most importantly, there is need for effective and efficient time management. And seek opportunities for training.
Wow, Prof, you have so much to tell them.
So, and of course, most importantly,
past the 8 minutes.
Yes,
I'm
sorry. Most importantly, one last thing, please. One more last thing that really matters is for us as young researchers, as even as old ones, to avoid research misconduct, because that is actually what I'm doing. Irrespective of what you attend in life, if you are involved in research misconduct and you are caught, you are just due for it. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I believe in the course of the presentation, when questions are asked, we'll be able to shed more light on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Thank you. I know you have so much advice to give to these younger ones, but not to worry. You will have opportunity to attend to their questions, and in attending to their questions, you can give them more. One of the most difficult assignments I have to do in the course of preparing for this program is having to summarize the CVs of the panelists. It was a very difficult thing because the CVs were highly loaded. I didn't know what to remove and what to leave there. But I believe I was thinking that you all had a smooth journey for you to have accomplished this. But I'm surprised now, hearing the two speakers, it wasn't easy. Yet we were able to accomplish so much. I am really, really excited at what you have been able to accomplish, despite the different challenges you're mentioning. Thank you so much. I know our audience, they are very eager to begin to ask their questions. So we don't want to keep them waiting for so long. Please, I will appeal to our audience. You can drop some of your questions in the Q&A box. Please make use of it for your questions that you need responses to. Then for pleasantries and comments, you can use the chat box. If you want to speak, you put up your hand. Mr. Osahele will give you access to the microphone. I think we already have some hands up. Mr. Osahele, can you please give Usman Nuhu? Please, can you give him access to the microphone? Mr. Usman, can you talk to us, please?
Osagale, please give him access.
Yeah, I think he has access to the microphone. He just needs to unmute.
Let him unmute.
Just unmute
He just needs to unmute.
Usman, unmute yourself.
Okay, while we are waiting for him, Technopop4, please, I will also encourage our attendees to use their name. Use your name. Don't allow your name to still bear your. Can we have a Technopop4? Can we have you ask your question? You have unmuted yourself. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello.
Technopop4.
Hello, ma'am.
I think Ridwan Yusuf is on now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello, moderator.
Speak louder, please.
Please speak louder.
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay,
Ridwan
Yusuf.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Good evening, panelists.
Good evening.
I've been quite an educative and insightful talk, and I really appreciate I'm privileged to be on this panel.
Please, can you speak louder?
I have tried my possible best, ma'am. Can you hear me properly, ma'am?
I'm finding it very difficult to hear you.
Okay, how about now, ma'am?
Please speak louder.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
It's fine now.
All right.
Okay. Like I said earlier, my questions are in two pieces, and I don't know if I will be permitted to proceed with the questions now.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Please, when Dr. Abiodun Egbetuku was giving his own comment,
sorry, Dr. Abiodun, are you hearing him? Because I can't hear him. I hope you're hearing him.
Yes, I am. I'm struggling a bit, but I am.
Okay, please go ahead. If Doc can hear you, that's fine.
I said when Dr. Abiodun Egbetuku was giving his own comment, his own lecture about the theme of the program, I heard him mention about mentoring as a major solution to academic and research activities. Yes, I agree with that also, but I would also like to make this comment that in this our academic setting of today, the lecturers that we have in the academic setting are not even eager to mentor anyone in any sense.
Yeah.
While I was taking my MSc program at Obafemi Awolowo University, I have some lecturers that are not even more concerned about student development, but more about themselves. And many of these lecturers, whenever they see you have some resources within you that they can exploit, they don't give room for your own personal development. They take advantage of what you have to offer just to elevate their own already high position. So I'm trying to make a comment here in the regard that how exactly is it that a lecturer can mentor a student in such a way that it will be symbiotic and not a parasitic relationship? That's one of my questions, sir. And secondly, when Professor Adejuwon was making his own lecture too, he talked about funding. Yes, we all know that in Nigerian research today, funding is one major challenge that we all face. Cases whereby you have to go for your fieldwork process and there's no even money on you. Some people then have to boycott, they have to make data, they have to find a way of just making their data invalid just for the purpose of getting the fieldwork done because they don't have the money that they needed to use. So is there a way the government can actually help Nigerian students by giving them, for instance, I study political science, and most of our panelists are not from the social sciences. They are from majorly science, except for Dr. Abiodun Egbeto, that had something related to economics. So I would like to ask, in my field of study, there are limited research grants that can be given onto or that students can access. I'm a prospective PhD candidate, and I could tell that at this moment, I have no idea on how to source for funds if I intend to go on an elaborate research work, which is going to invalidate whatever data I'm intending to give for my purpose, for the purpose of my research. And I wouldn't want to do, because they said, what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. I'm not this type of a person that I'm more like a perfectionist, although many people don't agree with that, but I like
think you want to keep it to the point. Otherwise, I will
Yes, that's what I just want to say. I think
okay. Sorry for bothering you with the talk. What I'm just simply saying is this.
No, it's not bothering him. It's because of time. We have a lot of people waiting to ask their questions. So you will give us food. You can just go straight to the point.
Thank you very much, man. So I just want to, is there a means by which people from the social sciences, political science, sociology students can access research grants in order to aid their researches for academic purposes? So that's simply what I want to ask. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Yusuf.
Thank you.
Dr. Abiodun, I believe you heard him.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. So I'm going to try and be quick on the questions so that we leave room for many more. Now, there are two questions he has asked. One is about how do we ensure symbiotic mentoring relationship between the current crop of professors that we have and their students. Now, first off, you need to bear in mind that mentorship is not babysitting, okay? And mentorship is not the same as help. These are two different things. You see, many times the expectations that mentees take into their mentorship relationships are so, how do I put it? They are way off the limit that when the mentor does not deliver on those expectations, quote and unquote, then they think that relationships are not symbiotic. That's not true. It is because the expectations were wrong in the first instance. You see, the relationship you would have with your mentor is one that you will keep strictly academic. You are not your mentor's friend. You know, now I am aware of pockets of cases where professors turn their particularly postgraduate students into errand boys and errand girls and so on. But I have to admit that these things happen. They are not good. We should condemn them. But the truth of the matter is that they don't fully represent the Nigerian system. There are very, very sound and solid mentors within the system. One just needs to keep working hard until you find the right one. And so precisely what do we do to ensure that the relationship is symbiotic? One core tenet of good mentor-mentee relationship is clear understanding of expectations and agreements on outcomes. So once the outcomes have been achieved, the mentor-mentee relationship does not necessarily need to continue. There is no such thing as a mentor for life. No, it is only so long as you have one thing or the other to offer each other. If there is nothing that the mentee feels that they can learn any more from their mentor, then the relationship can end. There's no harm in that. If the mentor feels that the mentee is too opinionated, is too idiosyncratic, and is very incorrigible, there's no reason for them to start a relationship in the first place. And so if a mentor spots, sometimes we need to be aware that our professors are very experienced. They are very good judges of character. Because many times they've been doing this for a very long time. They can spot a truant from a long distance. They can spot you if you are going to be very highly opinionated from a long way off. and they won't tell you. They will just politely decline to be your mentor. If you interpret that as them being too arrogant, not wanting to mentor and so on and so forth, then I'm sorry. It's just a misconstruence. One just needs to put all of this into context and be careful about how you approach your potential mentor. And I think this is very important. I'm hoping that Professor Adeneye will have one or two other things to say. And as we go on, we can't say everything in answer to one question, but I believe that I've said enough to, tickle your fancy a little bit. Now, in relation to the second question, I have only one answer. This is something that we can have an entire session on as a matter of, as a subject, and that is grantsmanship. In the NYA, we run webinars. We once had a workshop on grantsmanship, and I'm hoping that anytime soon we have another one. So I won't say too much on grantsmanship now, except in response to your question, to say that in today's world, it is increasingly difficult to get funding when you do research within a strictly defined or narrowly defined disciplinary area. So if you're a political scientist and you don't open or broaden your horizon such that you can do multidisciplinary research, it's going to be very difficult for you to get funding. I hope that is clear. Now, let me give you an illustration. You know that there is something that we call science diplomacy. And this cuts across many disciplinary areas. There are geographers, there are oceanographers, there are, natural scientists, and there are political scientists who are relevant to this. So the onus lies on the up-and-coming researcher or the researcher who wants funding to look for funding out there and raise relevant questions that are multidisciplinary, such that they have wide applicability, particularly in relation to policy and practical applications on the ground, and the chances of getting funded becomes much higher. Looking for funding in the field of political science could be, looking for a needle in the haystack. But if you look for funding as a political scientist in the field of science diplomacy, for example, or in the field of international science, networking and things like that, I bet you your chances are far higher. It's closer to 1 than to 0. Okay. So thank you very much. Let me stop at that point. So
thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. I think we will allow Prof to attend to some other questions. But before we go over to the next person, please, there is a question that is directed to you in the Q&A box. I just want you to quickly attend to it. Say, how were you able to cope with switching from mechanical engineering to management, especially considering the fact that they are not related and considering the admission requirements of each? So please quickly attend to it so that we take the next question.
All right, thank you very much. Again, the answer is in interdisciplinarity. Now, the management area where I studied is called technology management. It is multidisciplinary. It is like, bringing together principles of technology and engineering together with principles of management. So we study things about how to ensure that we develop technologies that are human-friendly, that have higher social appeal, okay? So it was easy for me to manage these because essentially, given that it's interdisciplinary, it was straightforward for me to fit in coming from an engineering background. I think that's the core thing here.
All right, thank you very much. So can we have Nura Ismail, Nura Sabiu? Please, Mr. Osahele, can you unmute? Give him access to the microphone.
Before the next question is asked, perhaps I should lend voice to Dr. Egbetokun's submission, particularly when it relates to switching from one field to other. I had similar experience. Like I said, I was of medical background, and before taking up research studies, postgraduate studies in pharmacology, as at the time I was given admission, part of the prerequisite was for me to take some undergraduate courses as a sort of makeup, because the pharmacology that is being taught to medical undergraduates is just for 1 year. and a core pharmacology, basic pharmacology required at least 4 years. So I was, made to take some courses in some undergraduate level, and I had to be humble. What I needed to lay emphasis on here is the issue of humility. There were even some courses that I had to work closely with the lab technologies, and I had to learn from their tables. I had to lower my ego to be able to learn and appreciate them. And many of the techniques are things that have become part and parcel of me today. So what I'm trying to say in the essence is that we should not be too arrogant to be able to even learn from some of our technologies. We should not be too arrogant to learn from some of the so-called non-academics, particularly we may call it quote and unquote, particularly the technical aspects. The technology, we should be humble enough to be able to learn right from the table, because all this will enhance our career development subsequently.
All right.
And then on the issue of the funding, like I said, depending on the field of interest, there are several funding opportunities. You see, the mentality most of us always have is that we believe that once I write a single proposal, it must be accepted, it must win funding. No, that's not the way it is. In fact, the average success rate for any research grants all over the world is just about 5%, meaning that for every 100 research proposals, if you're lucky, you just be fortunate to have funding for only 5. So if you're just like writing a research paper and then you submit to a journal and it's turned down, you pick up again, make the necessary adjustment, look for another journal that is formidable, and you resend to it. And what if that one gets done again, you keep on trying. Don't say because your paper turned down, stop writing. You just have to keep up the struggle. Similar thing also applies to the issue of research proposal. You just have to keep on struggling, and all this makes us better.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Please, I'll still appeal to the audience. You can drop your question in the Q&A box. There are people there to answer some of the questions, but the ones that are directed to the panelists, they will attend to it. I also appeal to you, just give us your question straight. Be precise in your question. Because of time, we want to take as many questions as possible. Please, Mr. Nura Sabiu, can you ask your question? Unmute yourself and ask your question. Nura Sabiu, unmute yourself and ask your question. Please go ahead and ask your question. You are muted now.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is that, as I can see the direct professors and doctors, my question is that, is any among those professors and doctors ever discover any drugs on any kind of disease?
Please, panelists, are you getting his question? I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I can. He's just trying to inquire if at all in our research efforts we'll be able to make discovery of drugs in the treatment of diseases. Well, like I said, for me, I have, but for Dr. Ebitoku, who is a social scientist, it is not easy to draw discovery.
Not at all.
So, but then his research work is making a lot of impact, and
yes,
is being recognized here and there.
I'm discovering other things, but
yeah,
not drugs.
I work in the field of drug discovery, and to be modest, I'll be able to discover we've done a lot of work, and a drug which I don't just want to. We have a drug that is in pipeline for treatment of diabetes. This has been well publicized. It has its patent, and we are at the stage of drug development of it. So
thank you very
for
much.
those that follow my profile, will have seen some of those articles that have emanated. And in fact, this is actually what won me some of those awards, international awards and accolades that are listed in the profile. Notable amongst which is the World Academy of Science, as well as most recently, the Nigerian Academy of Medicine.
Thank you very much, Prof. Our audience, you know, our panelists are from diverse backgrounds. Those in the medical area are busy generating drugs and all that. Dr. Abiodun, who is from the policy background, generating information and new knowledge to help us make informed policies. So I will give Momsu Musa. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Mr. Momsu Musa.
Yes, good evening, Prof, and good evening.
Network. Your network is poor. Please, let's have another person while we wait for you. Mr. Osahele, can you mute him so we take another person?
I think, yeah, just Osahele mute him and then we'll go to the next person and then let him type his questions on the
next, Mr. Taiwo David. Taiwo David, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, professors and doctor. It's been a very, very insightful teaching or lecture, if I'll put it that way, particularly for the prof who gave us the introduction. I want to ask, is it possible for NYA to further expand, like one of the persons who asked earlier made requests, is it possible to expand to other career areas? The fact is, what we are doing here, or what you guys are giving to us, is something we are dying to have. In my own university, it's difficult. Prof was trying to defend. It's difficult to get a genuine mentor. I stand to be corrected. It's very difficult to get a genuine mentor. I had to go out of my university and out of my discipline to actually get someone who helped me while trying to get a mentor. So I really want to ask, is it possible for NYA to further expand and probably create groups, regional groups, state groups, so that people from other universities can actually link up like a network, if possible, expand to have a website, a group. I don't know how best to put this question, but is it possible for NYA to become more impactful by reaching out to those of us who are young lecturers who want to go into research? That's my question, please.
Thank you very much. NYA is not restricted to any university or any discipline. I think I will give the mic to Dr. Ibrahim, our president, to attend to this question.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. It's really very good question, truly. And at the moment, what we are doing, this is just the first step. We will be conducting this across different specialty, across different, we'll call speakers from different specialties, one. And then we're going to be doing this quarterly so that we go deeper as we proceed. Now, to try to also look at it from per state or per region, I think it's also a very welcome development. At the moment, one of our working groups actually having that system where we have what we call working cells, where that cell from, let's say, from Ondo Ekiti axis, they try to mentor people around that area. We also have our own, all the regions, we we all have our own. But that's actually an initiative of one of the working group. And I would assure you, Mr. David, that we are, with this your suggestion, we are going to carry this forward. We are going to see how we can now try to go deeper so that we reach as much potential mentees as possible. So I promise you we are going to take this deeper, and thank you for raising this information. Now, again, precisely for your case now, I would think I would also—
Please, can I add to this? Sorry, please, can I add to this? My president, please, are you done, sir?
Yeah, I just want to, let me just tell him something also.
Just 1 minute for him to round up.
Yeah, I just want to also tell him that if you want to have a direct mentor from anywhere, what we'll do is that just contact either the president or the chair of the Talk to Your Professors program or the secretary of the academy that you need mentor. We'll find a way of looking for among NYA members who will be willing to mentor you. Like even yesterday, I think I linked up a member with someone. I requested him to kindly just mentor that person from A to Z, and they have just started. So please feel free to contact me or the chair of this committee or any other NYA member. Will see how we can facilitate for you to get mentorship from ground zero from among our members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just need to add, usually we always, when you talk of mentorship, what readily comes to mind of people is one-on-one mentorship, which is the traditional mentorship. It should suffice to say that there are other two types of mentorship. We have what is known as distance mentorship. These are benefited from. I have quite a number of international researchers who have really influenced my life one way or the other, and have served as best mentor to me over the years. And even some as far as in the US, and I never had any direct contact apart from exchange of emails and sometimes, we make phone calls, but we never really had one-on-one contact to provide that region. And there's something also called group mentoring, where a group of people, who serve, who provide, just as we are having the role that NYA is playing. A single mentor who can be matched with a cohort of mentors. So I'm glad that our president has graciously made this offer available, that even if we don't have one-on-one contact with you, you can still be linked, you can still be mentored. Your mentor doesn't necessarily have to be or be resident within your institution. And you do not really need to have a physical interaction, one-on-one interaction with your mentor, particularly in the world of internet. Like I said, now it's a global village we are, with emails, with so many social platforms that are available. You can easily be mentored.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Just to add to that, it's good we also know that our mentor mustn't be from our discipline. Mentorship is different from supervision. Though it is beneficial sometimes when you have a mentor who is also in your discipline, but that doesn't mean that your mentor must be from your discipline. You can have your mentor from any field, as far as the person is capable to guide you through your research journey. So don't restrict yourself to your area of specialization. Open up, broaden your mindset about mentorship. Thank you very much. I think we'll take the next person. Chisom Ume, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Chisom Ume, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? We have a few minutes to round up the program. So I would like you to be very brief.
All right, ma. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Ume Chisom. Please, I want to thank the professor that really talked a lot about this, and I must say I learned a lot. First, I have a mentor in my university, and I'm very grateful about that. But my question is, I want to the two speakers to throw more light on this grant issue, because the idea I have about grant is if you have the idea of to produce a new product or to solve a problem, because I've beaten work to get a grant for like several occasions, but I've been denied. So it has made me to not to forge ahead again. So I don't know if the fault is from my own end. I don't know. So I want people to throw more light on that, based on, especially on wastewater treatment. I actually am waiting for Professor Emmanuel to talk, because that's his area of specialty. But it's quite unfortunate he didn't make it to this program. So please, I would like someone to just throw more light on this, so that I can understand more about grant provision. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Prof, please, I also want you to attend to this question too, as you're answering that. This question is directed to you. Was there a time you won a grant for a research and it wasn't successful? If yes, how was the experience? Please attend to the question as you're answering Chisholm's question.
Please, can I add my own to it?
Is it related to the question that is asked already?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead so that you can attend to all of them together.
Please, I really appreciate this discussion. But mine is I'm a student in a postgraduate student, and then I saw one grant. They are not asking for collaborator, and I have to use for my research work, which is my thesis. How can now add somebody else, since I want to use it for my final research work? How possible it is? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Prof, I guess you got him well.
Yeah, his question, there are so many questions I first of all needed to seek clarification concerning that, because what he's saying is there is a research grant opportunity which he wants to win. Perhaps he has applied as an individual and they are seeking for collaborative research efforts. And if he's bringing them on board, how will he be able to utilize, if he eventually wins, to utilize for his research grant? Well, I want to say that there are so many research grant opportunities and types, specific research grants. If you are talking of a multidisciplinary research grant, then it is not an individual research work. It will be difficult to utilize because that will go against the specifications of that research grant. Every research grant has its own purpose. And if they are requesting for multidisciplinary approach towards it, there is no way such could. What could be done to take care of its needs is to expand the scope of the study, okay? And then perhaps from their study, they can utilize part of the research grant for this that will serve some purpose, but at the same time, it has to bear in mind that there must be room for accountability and transparency, very key in any research work you are doing, so that you don't just take the fund and disappear, and then you not leave the rest of the research. So even if it is a multidisciplinary research work, let that component of yours be included and give room for others, so that, again, the need for multidisciplinary approach comes into play in this situation. I believe I would be able to answer some of these questions. Then I also needed to ask, what is the role of your supervisor? Because as your supervisor, to be able
Prof, sorry, please.
I can't see.
Please, you have to make it brief. We are almost, our time is almost up.
In answering these questions, he failed to mention what role his supervisor is. So that's why I said I needed to seek further clarification. Perhaps he can talk to me at the end of the day. We can provide ways to addressing this. Then on this, somebody was saying that, how did I feel? Yes, like I said, there have been so many research grant applications that suffered rejection, but never stopped me. And there was a time I mean, there have been occasions where I win such as. So when I win, I shout Eureka. When my research work is turned down, I do a holistic review of what and what were my weakness, the weakness of that research proposal, and I improve on it, and then repackage for other subsequent research works. And of course, from some of the review, I'm even able to pick new research interests or have an idea of even expanding the research further to be more robust. So every research work that is turned down, I always see it as a challenge and opportunity for better attempts. And that has been my practice, just like it is with journal publication.
So
Thank you very much.
Doc, if I may quickly just add 1 or 2 sentences to what
Doc, please, you make it very brief. We still have a lot of questions.
Yes, it's just one or two sentences. You see, now in relation to what Chisom said, I wouldn't know, grant proposals, grant applications fail for several reasons, but in most cases, the assessors are kind enough, or the administrators of the grant are kind enough to provide you feedback. So what you should do is take that feedback and use it to progressively improve your application. It's not likely that you're successful the first, the second, the third, or fourth time. The fact that you are not successful even the 10th time doesn't mean you should stop. Just keep at it. Rome was not built in a day. Everybody accumulated a series of rejections before we came to where we are. I think that's important to know. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Thank you for making it very precise. Can we have Mohammed Adeyemi? Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask this question and also for the insightful session throughout. I want to specifically thank Professor Adeneye and Dr. Abiodun. I think those are the 2 presentations that I followed through accurately. So, but my question is very straightforward, and there are 2. One is that how does our lecturers, our mentors, because I understand that there are a lot of maybe our mentors here, and also this will also be an avenue to also make this appeal that how can they be technological savvy in the sense that of responding to emails. I learned that in Nigeria, some of our professors are not to that extent, although I'm sorry to say, but I don't mean it in a derogatory manner. I have a lot of respect for my lecturers and my teachers and my mentors, but what I'm just saying this evening, or want to appeal and ask from you as our mentors, is that how do we aid the process of technology in assisting our mentees? That is 1. 2 also is that why making recommendations for we, the younger ones that are coming behind the scene, for different opportunities, be it scholarships, fellowships, grants, and all sorts rather. So how do our mentors write, competent recommendations letter for their mentees or their students that are requiring this assistance from them? Not only 2-3 lines of recommendation letter that says, oh, I know Muhammad Adeyemi for the past 4-10 years. Please kindly grant him any assistance that he wants. That is too shallow. And in fact, you see some professors from some universities outside Nigeria, even they are Nigerians, maybe lecturing in the United States, they write 2 pages recommendation letter for their students, for their mentees. So I wonder why, and this is also aiding in the application process too, because these committees that are looking maybe to the fellowship, to the scholarships, they do also rely on the recommendations from our mentors back home here in Nigeria. And this is where we are being brought up. So we also want to be relatively competitive with our colleagues from India, from Pakistan, from China, from Russia, that are also making waves in best universities all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have Prof? attend to his question.
Well, I want to thank
Make
the
it very
last
brief
speaker
so
for
Dr.
yeah, for the
Abiodun can
question,
also
the last
answer.
question they asked, very timely. And you see, if you observe, I was just smiling when he was asking those questions. Truly, we've had this issue, but thankfully, these days, you will see that recommendations are well guided. Whoever is seeking recommendation, we always highlight areas they expect you to provide information on for each of the candidates. And this is where the issue of making your CV readily available to who be recommender for you. I've had cases, in fact, I see it as a part of secondary role to write recommendation for my students, many of them in Harvard, in other parts of the world, who are doing pretty well. And I always take pride in it because I've always been part of the success story. It's always, so one thing I always ask is, first of all, if you needed me to write recommendation letter for you, one, you must be known, you must be a known person. You must be a student that I know that at least I can vouch for, because sometimes I even go into records to grade you, whether you're in the top 10, the top 20, or what have you. Because I must be able to give you unequivocal statement about the candidates. And all this we guide in the write-up. And of course, by the time the CV, those missing links could usually be made up for through the CV. And where I have issues, I still reach out to the candidate to seek information for me to be able to. Like, I take it as part of responsibility. He said he was making an appeal. I equally want to appeal to so many of our colleagues. They see it as it's not a part of the duty, but as a person, I take delight in making recommendations for my students because I should be able to pride in my students in any way they want to go and help in their career development. Then on the aspect of being technological savvy, I think you cannot give what you don't have. I always tell people you cannot give what you don't have. For whoever is going to help, particularly, something happened, something very instructive happened in my university recently. We had this issue of global, viewing the profile of academic staff on the global academic platform. And we needed to encourage that. Somebody came.
Please, can you make it very brief?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. I will just let them to register on ResearchGate, Google Scholar, ORCID, and was asking, Prof, you could have told us to bring our laptop so that we'll be able to do. I said, but you have your phone. What are you doing using your phone? She had an Android phone, and I had to put her through. I had to use that. Your phone is as good as your laptop. You don't need a laptop. What you just need to do, I think, most importantly, is for people to make themselves readily available to improve themselves on the use of these mobile devices. And it's about individuals. It's about individuals and personal development. All I can just do is to appeal for some of us that are not really internet compliant to step up the game, so that at least we are not left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. I would have loved Dr. Abiodun to ask something, but because of our time, I will just give opportunity to the two last persons to ask their question. Mr. Johnson Olayemi, I understand from your comment that your Q&A and raise of hand is not active. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Mr. Johnson Olayemi, are you there? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? All right, while we wait for you, let's take Mr. Chigozie Abuta. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Mr. Osahele, please give Mr. Abuta access to the microphone. Abuta Chigozie. Can you give him access? Okay, Chigozie, unmute yourself and ask your question. You have just 1 minute to ask your question. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
Good evening to the panelists and my lecturers. Please, I want to ask, in carrying out research, academic and both applying for grants, what should be our motivation in writing papers and research grants that can actually win research grants?
Dr. Abiodun, did you get his question?
I think I have an idea of what he might be trying to say. And here's my interpretation, that what should motivate us when we want to write research papers and also proposals that will win research grants. And if I'm not entirely mistaken, I think one of the things that could have led to this question is whether we should be writing papers only for the sake of promotion or just for the sake of doing it, or whether we should be doing research grant proposals for the sake of making money. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but let me announce to you that a research career is not going to make you rich overnight, at least not in Nigeria, and at least not in my experience. So you want to do it for a higher purpose. The same way you don't want to do money rituals, it's the same way you don't want to write research grant proposals for the sake of getting rich overnight. And the same way you don't want to do something just for the sake of doing it, it's the same way you don't want to just write papers for the sake of getting promoted. People do things for different reasons, but if you must write academic articles, let your reason, if at least not 100%, let it mostly be about that being what you want to do and seeking to contribute to meaningful knowledge, to policy, to society, to human welfare and well-being. Without that kind of goal, as I said in the beginning, it's going to begin to get difficult as you rise through your career, as you rise through your career, because in academics, the higher you go, the hotter it becomes, not the cooler. There will be things that will require your attention, there will be administrative responsibilities and all that. So things that used to be easy for you will no longer be easy. If you are doing it because of some immediate reward you want to get, at the point you won't be able to continue. So that would be my quick response to that. And if I may just add two quick recommendations in relation to that of the point about writing recommendation letters. One is, it's important to ask somebody who truly knows you. Many people in the Nigerian context assume that just because I was your lecturer or because I was your supervisor, I know you well enough to write a recommendation for you. It is not given. You have to ask someone who knows you and learn to ask on time. Do not wake up tomorrow and stumble on an application for which the deadline is in 2 days and then approach somebody who declines, and you now begin to think that they are declining because they don't like you. You have to remember that they have their own lives. They are also busy. These things are important to also bear in mind. So before we shoot down our professors' methods, also at least be kind to them in the first instance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. I think it's been a very engaging session, very, very engaging session. I really want to appreciate our panelists for today. They have done justice to this session. Right now, we have attended to all hands that were up, and those of us that put their questions in the Q&A. I'm sure you are getting responses to almost all your questions there. I want to appreciate everyone. From our interaction this evening, it appears that a lot of our young researchers are having issues with mentoring and grant writing. I believe the chair of this committee, Talk to Your Professor, is taking note. Maybe in subsequent sessions, he will have to find a way to maybe bring up these issues and discuss extensively on it. It seems some of our audience don't also have a clear understanding of what mentoring relationship should be. So I want to say a very big thank you to everyone, and our time is fast spent. So I have to call on the chair of this committee to give a proper vote of thanks and also close the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator. I want to thank God for the success of this maiden edition of this interactive program. Talk to your professor. I want to appreciate our panelists. Professor Adeneye, thanks so much for coming. Dr. Betokun, we appreciate you a lot. I want to tell you that you have done justice to the theme, because the theme is a pathway to research and academic breakthrough, the challenges and the way forward. And that's what you have shared with us from your wealth of experience. And I know that the mentees, they have learned one thing or the other that's going to help them a lot in their research and academic career.
Sorry to cut in. Please, I appeal to the panelists to drop their email in the chat box. Maybe some of our
I've done that. My mail, I've dropped my mail and a phone number on the chat box.
Okay, I'm talking about the panelists too. If they can also do that, maybe some of the attendees would like to reach out to them personally, please. Help us and drop your email and your contact in the chat box. Thank you. Chair, please go ahead.
So thank you so much. The combination, it's very okay. Now, when we were trying to get the theme for this program, we don't even have anybody in mind. But no, the caliber of people that we have here today really goes along with the theme. When you have the combination of a research director, two research directors, one from the university and the other one from the research center, so that we have the right peg in the right hole. So once again, we thank you, SARS, and we pray for more upliftment in your chosen career by the special grace of God. I also want to thank the Talk to Your Professor committee. They've really done well. My moderator and other members, a lot of sacrifices, series of meetings to make this maiden edition worthwhile. And we thank God for a good delivery. We also thank for the support, the EC, under the leadership of Dr. Howard, for the support and for creating an enabling platform for this maiden edition to come to fruition. Thank you so much. God bless you. We also want to appreciate the audience, our mentees, our PG students and colleagues. And Heather said that what an Heather saw when sitting down, even if a child is standing up, you cannot see it. And that is what we call experience. And we have learned from them today. And I want to encourage you to put this into use. Please try and apply them. And in a short while, you will become academic and research giant that can contribute to national development. And as we'll be coming your way next time, and the second edition, I want to say bye for now. Thank you all for coming. God bless you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you
so
our
much.
audience.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you,
been a pleasure.
NYA. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank
you very well.
Thank you for the success of this maiden edition. Dr. Beto, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my chair. Thank you, Madam
Moderator. Thank you for coming.
The president, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
From the two of you so much, honestly. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much. Bring this program to an end. Mr. Osahele, you can close the program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Chimayobi. I mean, Dr. Chimayobi. Thank you.